As we enter week 4 of Operation Spectre Rising, we kind of jump into the big question mark of what's gonna happen, because the last couple of weeks has been rather dry, but it is still something that along the way we've had smaller bits and pieces here, nothing really major. And so is there anything up on deck this week that can maybe cure that? Well, we're going to talk about the 8 things in Call of Duty to look out for this week, as we normally do with our Monday series, and we're going to examine everything that is coming and what may be coming as well, talking a little speculation towards the end. But regardless, let's jump right into it. First things first, unfortunately, it's kind of another bummer of a week, another one that doesn't have all that much, but still we press on, hoping for something more worthwhile than what we know of. But that's where we come into the speculation part of this a little later. But as for the things that we know confirmed 100% will be happening, well, firstly, for Zombies players, this is the one rare occasion where there's actually some focus on this game mode. Double Nebulium Plasma is going live until this Thursday. It started this past Thursday for you guys on all platforms, so you can take advantage of that if you guys want to grind out some zombies and maybe end up getting some stuff out of that. Well, Double Nebulium Plasma isn't a half bad start for that. Unfortunately, that is the only thing for Zombies at the moment, and has been for a little bit of time, at least since the launch of Operation Spectre Rising. But the next thing up on deck ends up coming around to Hot Pursuit returning for Blackout this upcoming Tuesday, or potentially this upcoming Tuesday, that is. This was mentioned over on Twitter by Treyarch, in which somebody asked how many retweets for Hot Pursuit to come back in relation to the discussion about the return of Ambush. They ended up replying saying currently plan to return as early as next week, once the new and improved Ambush has some time in the spotlight. Now, it's important to note that this is the targeted window of release here with this, so it's not necessarily guaranteed to come as of tomorrow and the playlist update that may come along with it. And if it does, I would imagine that it ends up working just like how Ambush did, where it's available for all platforms, because it's not a new mode, it's just something returning. So in that capacity, PlayStation 4 shouldn't, by that theory, have any exclusive rights to that for an entire week. So if it does happen as of tomorrow, it should be coming to all 3 platforms, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. But the big thing to note again is that's the targeted window for launch. We saw this happen recently with Ambush, where with 2 or 3 weeks left in Operation Grand Heist, Treyarch ended up saying they were looking to launch it that upcoming Tuesday. Well, as we know how that worked out, we only got Ambush, the new reiteration of that, as of this past Tuesday. So it took a little bit of time from when it was first initially mentioned to whenever it was re-unveiled. Now, I will say that Treyarch tweets are probably a little more vetted than on-the-spot commentary topics in a developer interview and a live stream at that it's happening real time. So this probably has a little more thought going into it, where it's more than likely ready for tomorrow, but it's not necessarily guaranteed. So keep an eye out for that if you guys are interested in Hot Pursuit. I personally love the game mode, so I'm all for that. Third thing up on deck here is specific for Xbox One and PC users, that being the Bare Bones Deathmatch playlist coming for those on the platforms. Now, this already came out for PlayStation 4. It's exclusive, unfortunately, for a couple of days here, but will be unveiling to you guys as of Friday. So you guys can jump in for that and play around with a brand new Bare Bones game mode, something that has no gear, no specialists, nothing like that. And again, plays very similar to how we had Bare Bones Deathmatch and TDM, but this one now throwing in Kill Confirmed and removing Domination out of that playlist. So if you guys are interested in checking that out, it'll be available for you guys in a relatively short period of time. Now, we're gonna come back to, unfortunately, the shop refreshes for the next item up on deck. And I'm gonna cover it just for the sake of transparency, just for the sake of being thorough. This is something that we don't exactly know what will be happening, but of course, as of tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, we'll get a brand new special order and 2 new featured items in the shop. Now, it seems like we're having something along the lines of at least 1 camo per week introduced, maybe a uniform, and maybe some special order that may possibly be a refresh. And I'm not a fan of that, but it is something that the last 2 weeks have given a little sour taste in my mouth for a track record. Now, what's curious though is that we still have a bunch of content found from the Datamine files back whenever the game update kicked in for Spectre Rising on PC. Now, what's interesting to me is that I'm starting to think and theorize a little more that what we saw from that is simply the first split of this operations content, and that anything that's coming through the second half of this and with Days of Summer has actually been withheld, and it's not really in the game files, save for the exception of those weapon charms that we saw were earlier builds and incomplete builds of those accessories in the game files as of that update. So we might actually have an accurate depiction of what may be coming cosmetically throughout the shop. That means that we have things like the Empire Camo, the Battery Prohibition outfit, the Pirate Jump Pack, the RK7 Mastercraft, and a few other things that still could likely be on the way. And even going through and looking at all that we had versus what is still yet to come, it just reinforces the thought of it, because it almost matches up perfectly where we have 2 weeks left and 6 items of larger detail here for this that we could see for the first split of Operation Spectre Rising. And one quicker thing to round out the things that we absolutely know about is that of the 50% off tiers. This is going to be happening for another 24 hours or less than that probably by the time you watch this video, but if that's something you're interested in, you can end up taking advantage of that for 50% off. It's normally 100 COD points per tier, but it'll be 50, so therefore you can get a little more for your money. I wouldn't advise for this because especially within this operation and the first split of Spectre Rising, not all that much is all that worth it. The only thing that really is worth that grind is tier 25 and tier 50, one being a melee, one being the LMG. So outside of that, I don't really think I'd be like, hey, go for this, but it is something to, again, for just being thorough, something that's there until tomorrow. But ultimately, based off of the confirmed stuff, again, it looks to be another rather dry week. But speculation time, let's put on our tinfoil hats here for this. The next thing to discuss is that maybe, just maybe, we see something of a mini event. There's a rumor right now swirling around the community, a little on the download, that we might see a mini event as of tomorrow, similar to a Barbarians event. I personally don't buy into this, but that's what some people are starting to anticipate, and I understand where that comes from because, well, we haven't had anything the last 2 weeks fully and doesn't look to have anything this upcoming week. So when you consider that we just had an operation launch and not really all that much in terms of meaningful updates those 3 weeks after the launch week, it is definitely something that gets you thinking and is really curious. But another thing that ends up playing into this is the fact that Treyarch has confirmed that we'll have more weapons than we know of for the rest of the operation. Now, I'm personally more so thinking again of this as the operation as a whole of Spectre Rising, the 10 weeks, rather than the 5 and 5 split, because Days of Summer still falls within Operation Spectre Rising. And as we know, we're going to get another 50 tiers with Days of Summer as the Contraband stream refreshes here or that, so that means that we're going to at least have another 2 weapons that we know of, that being the Vendetta Sniper, one can only imagine, and of course the Ballistic Knife, which was shown off in the trailer itself. That tweet, though, talking about more weapons than we know, I think that might only default to one more weapon at some point, being the S6 Stingray, possibly a new tactical rifle like we talked about here on the channel a couple of days to maybe a week and a half ago at this point, but we talked about that, how it was leaked by the Call of Duty companion app. The other things we know of for sure, that Ballistic Knife was in the trailer, that Vendetta Sniper was in the Grand Heist marketing and trailer for that, so those 2 things had been in the general public. This, the S6 Stingray, really wasn't, so in that sense, that I think would be the only surprise thing here with this. And again, as the operation as a whole, we know there's going to be more stuff introduced with Days of Summer, so I don't necessarily see that coming as of tomorrow. But I could be wrong, and I'd be pleasantly surprised if we were wrong, but maybe keep an eye out for it just in case. Outside of that, I'm really curious to see if this is the week that we'll finally understand the meaning behind the one game file that has a 25% boost of some sorts. There's an image in the game files that looks like a reserve with a 25% boost over top of it. So I personally don't know what this means, whether or not that boosts the rarity of items in that, or it boosts what I personally think is probably the more likely one, the speed at which you gain those in those timed reserves in conjunction with your tiers, the ones you earn alongside that tier progression. Perhaps this is what that's in relation to, and we see a decrease on the amount of time per reserve earned. Not the tiers again, but instead the ones that go alongside that one that all players earn regardless of tier 1 or tier 1000. 25% would bring it down to roughly 45 minutes of in-game playtime, so you'd be earning at a bit quicker of a rate, but obviously not as fast as the 2 times boosted one, which exponentially increases the yield that you have for reserve crates with tiers and such if you end up getting past that. So I'm curious if that happens, but again, that is super speculation, and we have absolutely no idea if that'll happen, but want to throw it out there just because we're kind of running out of time, and if we do come back to that theory that everything we saw in the game files as of the Spectre Rising update for PC, if that's everything that's indicated in this first half, well, that means it has to come at some point. But the final thing I want to talk about is that of potentially Modern Warfare 4 Call of Duty 2019 teasers of some sort. Maybe a reveal, who knows, but we're getting very, very far into May now at this point, and it's getting closer to that point where it's the latest reveal we'll ever have seen in Call of Duty history. So It's right around the corner somewhere, man. And if it does happen, I still don't think that it will be this week per se, just because we saw some information from the GameStop listings and their databasing system that showcases t-shirts for the next title coming in as of next Tuesday. But I mean, anything's possible. And again, if a teaser leads up to that, maybe we end up seeing something, but it would also explain why it might be pretty quiet on the Black Ops 4 front. But outside of that, the big thing that I have to ask that isn't in relation to things to look out for is really, though, if there's not anything for MW4 kind of taking the spotlight that we don't know about just yet, where's the content? I get there's some stuff for literally Black Ops 5 already in production like we talked about as of yesterday, but we're entering the 4th week of Operation Spectre Rising. Last week we had nothing really. The week before that we only had a rehashed shop, and that was about it. And the week before that, well, that was the launch of the operation. I'm all for some quiet and some things that drop out of nowhere for some surprise hype and all that kind of stuff, but at this point I just want some transparency. This feels a lot drier of an event, especially at the beginning where that should be the focus of keeping everybody engaged and wanting to play as much as possible. I feel like this is much drier than the last two were at this point in time. And having a split of two smaller events within this operation to keep things rolling and fresh, well, it just doesn't add up to me, and I'm kind of curious. Though, truth be told, as of what came out on Saturday, maybe that is a big indicator. Maybe this is going to be a sort of lackluster in terms of content drop stuff because of the crunch hours that may be coming for what's up on deck for not Sledgehammer's next title in 2020, but Treyarch's, as weird as that sounds. But again, we detailed all of that yesterday, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, man. It's absolutely crazy to me. But that's where we're going to wrap it up. That is the 8 things to look out for in Black Ops 4 and Call of Duty this week. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Is there anything in particular you're looking forward to here out of this week that we either listed or maybe not and you're hoping drops out of nowhere? Whatever it may be, feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you drop a like down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Black Ops 4 and Call of Duty, MP, Blackout, Zombies. We got you covered the best updates, news, information, tips, tricks, all that good stuff. So if any of that interests you, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. And if you guys want to stay up to date and follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, those are the best places to get connected outside of YouTube. Practically on both those. So if you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, that link is down there in the description below. That said, thank you guys all so much for watching. It might have been Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.